Hello, and you're listening to FPcast, the podcast for Fruitless Pursuits, where we were bullshit about the week in pop culture. I'm Luke.
I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about...
Movies, television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
Good doggos.
Barkers. Poppers.
Doing the intro correctly that we've done 5,000 times before.
Look, I just like to mix it up a little bit,
Okay.
keep it fresh,
Yeah, okay.
and that's all.
Yeah.
Yes, we just saw a film where Scarlett Johansson went doggy style. Didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Ow! Arf! Am I right? Bark, bark. It was a bit of anti-cat propaganda, really, but
It was, yeah.
we'll get to that. So, yeah, we saw Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs. We're going to be reviewing that one.
I got very confused the other day because I work in the veterinary industry and I got an email about doggy shampoo, so the Isle of Dogs dog shampoo, and I was like, what the fuck? This is the weirdest tie-in. But no, it's a brand of shampoo that has been around for quite some time called Isle of Dogs, and I bet they're a bit like, oh, okay, this is weird, but fine.
Thanks, Wes Anderson,
Yeah.
for blowing up our spot. And we also are reviewing A Quiet Place, which all cinemas should be.
They should, yes.
Yes.
Yes, they absolutely should.
And if cinnamons.
Cinnamon cinemas.
Cinnamons.
I don't really like cinnamon.
Okay, you're wrong. But yeah, if cinemas employed those creatures,
Yeah.
put one in every, or even just walking up and down the aisles outside,
Yeah.
wouldn't be complaining.
With a nice little waistcoat on,
Yeah,
name tag.
and a flashlight.
Yeah.
Great.
What's his name?
It had predator clicks too, didn't they? Like
Yeah.
click, 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 click. Great. Ooh, we're going to be talking about that, and some other gubbins as well. Yeah.
As per usual.
So get out the old dial and set your expectations to medium today.
Medium?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess we've got some stuff to talk about, so I guess medium is an okay place to be.
I think these are interesting movies to talk about, so that's always a good thing. Yeah. All right. Well, news-wise, because we're talking about Scarlett Johansson, you and I just went down a little bit of a rabbit hole looking at
Yes.
Letterboxd and sort of where it shows you the percentage of how many of a person's films you've watched.
Yes.
And there's unreleased stuff in there and short films, and
Yes.
so it's a pretty crazy number.
Yeah, like most of mine that I thought that I would have seen a whole bunch of their movies, I'm sitting at like maybe 40%, and that was quite shocking to me. But it's, documentaries that they've maybe done a voiceover or little TV spots that they were on or something, just these tiny random things.
Some of it is even like Blu-ray special features, kind of, mini documentary stuff. So a lot of it's gubbins.
Yeah.
But I have watched all of Scarlett Johansson's films except for Sing. It's the only one I haven't done yet, where she voices a hedgehog who likes to rock. Maybe a porcupine. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it, like I said. But, we saw that her next film is called Jojo Rabbit, or one of her next films, and Taika Waititi is directing.
Yeah, so we clicked on Jojo Rabbit, went Scarlett Johansson, Taika Waititi. It's like a Holocaust movie. We went, surely this is bullshit. And Googled it. It's not.
No, yeah.
No.
So it was reported by Variety in end of March. And it's a movie about a boy who discovers that his mother is hiding a Jewish girl during the Holocaust. And Scarlett Johansson is the mother.
Yeah, which sounds, I mean, I'm sure there will be some differences, but it sounds a lot like, is it The Book Thief, where the family's hiding a Jewish boy in their house? I imagine there was a lot of hiding of Jews in the 40s.
Pretty common theme. You probably find a few examples of that. But yeah, interesting. I think that's great because Taika had the opportunity to do just about anything after Thor Ragnarok, and it's a runaway success. He chose that Scarlett Johansson was the thing that he wanted, because I'm sure he was able to choose whatever he wanted, and that's what he wanted. He's got her, she's signed up. He wants to make this next. And I think either one of two things is going to happen here. first, all those people that were like, oh, he should direct every movie or whatever, and have sort of put him into this narrow box of what they think he can do, are going to be pleasantly surprised that there's more depth to him and that he can do something even more interesting and meaty than what he did on Thor Ragnarok, and are going to go, oh, wow, he's a nuanced director and we needed to have a broader opinion of him. Or he's going to bring some lols to the Holocaust. And
The Holocaust.
And there's going to be some familiar New Zealand faces popping up in there.
I'll have that little Julian Dennison will play.
Julian Dennison
will play the kid.
Will be in there. He'll be the kid.
It's like flipping the bird to her Hitler
with his Kiwi accent.
Yeah, I mean, even look,
it'll be and the Holocaust finally will be a laugh riot.
Yeah. I mean, even Taika's more serious films are still pretty funny. Yeah. So, look, I am so interested to see what Taika Waititi is going to do with a Holocaust movie. But yeah. Look, I'm curious. And I wish to have my curiosity sated at some point in the next decade. There's no release date on this thing yet, I don't think.
That's true. But he has said it will be his next film, so I would imagine he works pretty quick, within a year or so. Yeah. While we're talking about casting, there are a few other little casting bits and pieces. Gabriel Luna is going to be the new Terminator. So he's the guy that was Ghost Rider in S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah, the newer Ghost Rider in S.H.I.E.L.D. And I think I spoke about this at the time, that when he first kind of started, I kind of didn't like him, but definitely warmed to him towards the end of Ghost Rider's involvement in the show. So, yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know this prick at all.
Okay.
Yeah. But what I thought was most interesting about this article, and I had heard this before, but just that reminder that this is a whole new Terminator trilogy, and it's going to ignore Terminator 3 onwards. So it's going to be Schwarzenegger, it's going to be Linda Hamilton. It's direct sequel to Terminator 2. So she didn't die of cancer. She's still going, and I just think that's funny because every time we're sold one of these new films, it's going to be this big new, this is the new thing, and this is launching a whole new this or whatever, and then within a year it's like, oh yeah, no, that actually didn't exist, we're going to do something different. So what was the last Terminator with Emilia Clarke, wasn't it?
Genesis.
Yeah. So it did not exist. Forget that happened.
Have you forgotten it?
Have you?
Yep.
Come on.
Ugh.
Do not think about Terminator Genesis.
People probably had forgotten about it, and then we just reminded them.
Yeah. Fuck, I forgot. I watched it, and I've pretty much forgotten about it. I was just racking my brain thinking, wasn't there like a Doctor Who in it?
Yeah,
and Matt Smith. Wasn't he John Connor? Was he Robot John Connor?
I don't remember, but he ended up being evil at the end, didn't he?
Oh,
was he?
Fuck,
I can't remember.
It was like, we didn't know he was a Terminator, and then it was like, oh, and he's a Terminator.
Oh, was he?
Was that what happened?
I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah. Mulan.
Yeah, Mulan. Yes.
But isn't that like an American thing to take a U and just go, oh, let's make it two O's, like emu?
Oh, yeah. I guess Mulan. So there's a live action Mulan coming.
Yeah.
Yes, 2020. Long time away.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I won't put my sleeping bag outside the theatre just yet.
No, there's been some casting. They've cast Mulan and a couple of other people, and they just announced that they have cast Donnie Yen and Jet Li.
Yes.
For this thing. So Donnie Yen is playing the sort of her like mentor, I imagine, kind of once she gets into the army, sort of the older soldier mentor kind of character.
Gonna teach us some martial arts. That's going to be a stretch for him.
He'll smile at her disarmingly, and she'll just go, oh, whatever his character's name is.
Yeah.
I feel better about everything already.
Bit of rust-proof that armour.
And Jet Li is playing the Emperor. And actually, Donnie Yen is filming Ip Man, like, 5 or something at the moment.
5?
4? I don't know. Whatever the next one is. He's doing another one right
4.
now. 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's doing the sequel right now.
4 and right now.
Right now, as we speak. Yes.
If we like listened really carefully, we might hear some sweet kicks.
Probably.
I'm doing all that stuff. You can't see what I'm doing, but it's that stuff.
He's gonna have one of those like with all the things poking out of it.
Yeah,
and he's just going to be practicing his, like...
Come on, you listeners.
Forearm
You know what
hitting
we're doing. We're doing this thing that he does.
Yeah.
It's all like blocking and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I got my... Yeah, and I'm doing that. And
how to defend while attacking.
With my things and the stuff, and I'm like buffing it all away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Donnie Yen. Okay, 2020. I'll put that in my diary. And final bit of news. This is why we don't do news. The news is just bullshit, isn't it?
It is pretty bullshit.
It's like, some guy might be in a thing in 3 years. Boo! It. Sequel to It. It 2. Itter.
To It.
To It. To... Furious. Clown. Boogaloo. Rise of Justice.
Yeah.
So, because they're going to be the adults. The kids are going to be adults in
Yes.
that. Probably be some flashbacks to when they're kids too, because those kids, people love those kids. So they probably want to get those kids back as well for a little bit. But, you're watching the kids and you're like, who are these kids going to grow up into? Can't stay kids forever. And looks like the main kid, the one who's Georgie's brother, McAvoy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And funny kid from Stranger Things with the glasses.
Oh, yeah.
That was doing the Corey Feldman kind of thing. Bill Hader.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not hatering that decision. I think that's two great cast members. And It was so cool. Like, everybody's got to want to be in It.
Okay.
Who's going to be the It girl, though?
No idea.
Who is Hollywood's It girl right now? You have to be around that same age.
Yeah. And, that's it's starting to edge 40, dude.
Yeah.
So, who are they going to pick? Is this going to be like Christina Hendricks, who's got red hair, that'll do?
Oh, yeah, well, oof, okay. Hello. Yep,
Yeah.
done. Christine Hendricks, please. And then trailers. We saw a couple of trailers. One, I don't know if either of these are new.
Yeah. Well, I think so. The Meg, I'm sure there was a teaser ages ago, but I think this week was the first proper trailer that has come out.
So the Meg, which is short for... Megalodon.
Which is like Hell Big Shark, eh?
Yeah, and it's basically, I'm surprised they didn't call it just Hell Big Shark, yay, because the Meg is got to be one of those, laziest Hollywood... We don't want to, we know audiences are dumb as fucking shit.
I'm pretty sure it's based on a book or a comic or something. Because I know a lot of people on my socials were saying, "Oh my god, I'm so glad they finally made the Meg." So it must be based on something.
Based on a comic, great. So someone drew sharks.
Yes.
Big sharks.
Yeah.
And they said, "We're going to put those on the screen."
Because they've never made a big shark movie before, so it's very brave of them to bring this to audiences.
We get a shark movies quite a lot lately, aren't we? Like every year we get a shark movie. There's 47 Meters Down, and there was that one with the woman on the rock. Yeah. And the shark circling around.
I think it's all propaganda made by the people who make like shark nets and stuff. They want us to be really scared of sharks.
Yeah. When really, they're pretty good blokes.
Yeah, they are. They'll buy you a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they'll bite you a bit. And I was going to go, they're sharks. That's nature. That's baked in.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the thing that they do kind of just bite you a bit and then they go, oh, no, I don't like that. And then they, go away. But often the bit that they bite... it kills you. Like, if they bite you on the leg and they sever your femoral artery, then you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Or they might...
There are a lot of people that you just have one arm or leg now because of sharks. And that's, nature's compromise, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, I'll take this little bit, you can keep the rest.
Yeah. And then you're kind of bonded. And you might have a shark's powers.
Okay.
Yeah.
To not go backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go back.
He's like an emu who can't.
It's difficult with one leg. So, The Meg is a movie about a giant shark. It looks pretty fun. It looks basically like you took one of those Sci-Fi Channel movies and gave it a budget.
Yeah.
And threw in Jason Statham, which is a pretty good litmus test for what my expectations would be for this movie, because he's someone that I expect to be pretty over-the-top, humorous action. So, I gotta say,
Oh, I'm pretty keen for it.
I'm assuming, like, if it's going to come out on a quiet week, which I'm assuming it will, I can't imagine the Meg is going to go up against, Solo or Infinity War. Then, sure, let's make it up.
Yeah, I'm down to Meg.
Great. And I've got nothing else to say about this apart from the fact that
there's a big shark and it bites some things.
Yeah. Remember when Ratatouille came out and they had to phonetically spell it underneath because audiences were dumb?
Did they?
Yeah, so now the Meg. Just the Meg.
Yeah.
If people can handle that. 3 letters. Done. Meg. Fucking big shark, eh?
I know there's like a whole bunch of people like called Meg who are going to cop a lot of shit in the wake of this movie. Oh, you're going to bite my fucking arm off, Meg?
Oh, Meg, God. Don't bite my arm off, Meg.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
I didn't have anything, so I just copied you.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah.
That's allowed.
Yeah, well, it happens all the time on the internet.
Well, I'll see you in court.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I don't think this is a new trailer, but it looks like a big Disney Christmas movie that we haven't really heard a lot about.
I had not heard anything about this.
You didn't even know it existed, right?
No.
No, and I saw someone watching it about a week or two ago and went, what's this trailer? And it's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Keira Knightley, Morgan Freeman, Helen Mirren. And it's the Nutcracker story, the classic Nutcracker story that you know and love, given the live action Disney treatment with toy soldiers and ballet and
some more ballet,
nutcrackers.
Yeah, I think this thing looks great. Like, if they sort of amp up in the trailer, from the people who bought you Beauty and the Beast, and if they kind of pitched at that level, then great. I mean, let's go.
Do you think there's of course we'll go, but don't you think if we can do it if it's a Christmas Day or Boxing Day or kind of movie, then even all the better, I think. But don't you think there's this sort of fantasy identity crisis now, and it's because we've had a glut of those kind of films. Because now genre films come out every week. And what struck me when I saw these kids watching it, they were like, oh, this is Alice in Wonderland. And then they were like, no, it's Narnia. And they were trying to guess what it was. And the imagery, it's a new sort of pastiche of the stuff that we've seen before.
Yeah. Well, I definitely got Narnia vibes.
She goes through a thing and comes out in the snow.
Yeah.
There's the falling down the rabbit hole style visuals.
And I mean, it does definitely have that kind of Alice in Wonderland look to it anyway.
It's got that, glossy Burton, Alice in Wonderland, similar kind of palette. Yeah. So I just think that it doesn't mean it's going to be any less entertaining, but it puts a real struggle for how does a movie become a memorable classic in these days when we've got so much of this stuff. When a fantasy film was rare, you really savour that imagery and remember that imagery. But when you get to the point where a lot of these films just all mix into your brain as one, and you're like, was that from Maleficent, or was that Alice in Wonderland, or what was that thing with the thing? It becomes more difficult, and I think it does make me wonder, even though I think Disney's churning out pretty good work in general at the moment, will they have that kind of legacy of, they went through a phase, apart from a sort of dark time in the late 80s through the 90s, well, up until Little Mermaid, I think, essentially. They had this time when everything was kind of a classic, and they were these treasured, hand them down through generations movies, and I just don't know if they're doing that so much anymore.
Yeah, I think
and not because of them, because of us as an audience.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we're definitely... I think people are kind of picking and choosing a bit more because there is so much of it. There'll be some kids that really attach themselves to, Big Hero 6... when a lot of other people have completely forgotten about most of what happened in Big Hero 6. So I think, previously, between The Little Mermaid and, say, Lion King, there was, 2 or 3 years or something. They're not pumping them out every single year like they are now. So I guess it's just a volumes thing.
That's it. There's no time, I don't know. I guess it's different when you're a kid as well, because as a kid, you have that capacity to... Well, I know I did as a kid, to watch stuff just again and again and again. But when you look at the fact that there's a lot of people my age, your age, which isn't the same age, but that have, have Star Wars, for example, as such an important part of their life. There was a 10-year period, even maybe longer, where I can't imagine what was even competing with that. Like, that was your fix for that kind of movie. And I think even when Lord of the Rings came out, you don't have a comparable fantasy epic. I mean, I don't think you still probably don't in terms of a series of films. You've got the Harry Potter films, but that's a different kind of fantasy itch that it's scratching, and I think they still are as successful. Yeah, like now, especially in terms of the animated, Disney's doing probably a Pixar film and an animated film every year. And it's like, how deep can you go into Big Hero 6 fandom and be like, oh, I love Go Tomorrow, or I love this, and then suddenly
there's a new thing.
You're like, Judy Hopps is my jam. Like, it's just so fast moving that I don't know how anybody gets the chance. And it's the same with because of that glut of entertainment. I find it's the same with books, whereas as a child I would have reread certain books, as a teenager reread certain novels, and now it's just that feeling and consume it, and then I've got to get to the next thing. There's always something new, so it's tough, and it all just blends together.
I mean, I was going to say the fact that they're pumping out so much stuff does let them get a little bit more left field with what they're putting out. But I mean, like, who was pitching Hamlet with lions back in the 90s, so it's not like they've been conservative or anything.
But I would say now, and I don't know if it's because where as consumers it getting adjusted through things like Netflix, there's that sort of coherent ongoing narrative thing that I think is what is required to get investment. Like the fact that Game of Thrones going into its 7th, 8th year, whatever it is now, and where everyone's still like frothing for the next bit because we're invested and we're going along that journey. And I think Star Wars is able to do that. Harry Potter's being able to do that. All these things that even finished are now finding ways, well, how do we Fantastic Beasts sing it? Whereas I think those standalone things, even though they are often of superior quality because you've got something that is a really tight idea and it's there, sort of fall to the wayside a little bit, because without that constant new material within that world, you sort of forget about it a bit and move to the next thing. So I can understand why we're in a situation now where you have 10 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that we like those threads to continue through.
And why one of the biggest cartoon characters of the last decade are fucking Minions, because they just keep pumping Minions after Minions.
Yeah, that I don't get, but yeah.
No, I don't get it either, but then, like, some of my adult friends just think they're the funniest thing, and I'm like, what? Because they go, up, banana! Like, that's not funny, is it? Am I missing something?
Yeah. Like Deadpool saying chimichanga, right?
Yeah. Look, Deadpool's not funny. And I want to, I need to go on record and say that I was an original Deadpool naysayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was an early adopter of fuck Deadpool.
Yeah. That first movie has some really funny bits. I got to give it that. But I think overall as a movie, it's pretty dull. That said, though, Minions are just they're not even an attractive design. No. They're not an interesting bit of art to me. I think that's the problem. If it was something that kind of like captured my imagination or that I kind of thought was pretty cool. Like we were saying today, we got the trailer for Hotel Transylvania. Is it 2 or 3? 3. And I haven't seen any of those movies, and they're not for me. They're not pitched at me. I'm not interested in that. And I think, like, story-wise and the dialogue-wise that is presented in the trailer, there's nothing special there at all. But I do appreciate some of the art. There's some cool creature design, and there's just some really nice cartoony characters that are fleshed out in an interesting way. And I think, especially since starting to play around with, like, 3D modelling, I'm really interested in, like, looking at details and techniques and things that I maybe sort of glossed over before. And, like, I appreciate that stuff, but I can't see it in Minions. Like, I can't see that appeal. There's very interesting long tangent, but that's good because they are the interesting. That is pop culture commentary. Not that thing where we just talked about this guy's going to be a Terminator. This guy that 90% of you have never heard of.
But we have also brought the scourge of minions back into people's lives. So, sorry.
Well, it might make people eat bananas, and they are a great source of potassium.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's review some films now. We've got
on that note,
our scholarly hats on.
Yeah.
The old mortarboards on our heads. A Quiet Place. Now, this is one of those films, and I do like it when it happens, where a film, you know, we didn't know this was coming up. It's not something we were talking about last year as, oh, that's on our list. But sometimes a film, like, sneaks out and people are buzzing about it. And it's not a genre that you will normally go and see in the cinema. No,
well, it had been marketed as like a horror film, basically, and so I was like not interested in it at all. But you know, same with like you know, Get Out and stuff like that. If a movie has hype, then you know I'm willing to risk a panic attack and go and see the film just in case it is actually very good.
And it's certainly, I think, it would be remiss with all the talk about A Quiet Place to do a pop culture podcast and not review A Quiet Place. We had to go and see it. There was a point where I was just like, a lot of people are talking about this. We need to...
Yeah, and I love Emily Blunt and I like John Krasinski, and it was his first movie that he's directed.
Yes.
As well. So I thought, well, you know, why not? Why not?
A very simple premise. It's a very premise-driven film. It's a world where some creatures have arrived. We don't know how or why or where from.
Yeah,
but
it jumps straight in. There's no setup really. It's just this is what's going on, and you just roll with it.
And everyone has to be really quiet.
Yeah.
Because if you make a noise, these creatures, they're going to come and get you, and they're going to hurt you and kill you probably.
Yeah.
And then
well, they're going to like kill you definitely. I would say.
I'd say they're not like a shark. They're not
going to bite a bit. They're going to bite all of you.
Yeah. They're going to finish the job.
Yeah.
So that's the premise, and I guess in terms of story, it's pretty hard to talk about anything else without spoilers because you know, you go in knowing the premise, and I think therefore the whole point of the movie and your engagement in the movie is seeing to what lengths they're going to take it and how they're going to play around with this premise. And maybe that in part explains some of the kind of pacing issues I had with it, because it's quite leisurely for a while, and I think during that time it's really just setting up the premise that everybody knows going into it. And there's a point where I go, okay, you're telling me stuff that I knew. And of course you have to, go into that stuff. But what I'm interested in next is what are you going to do with that? And how are you going to really ratchet up that tension? How are you going to, that's what I'm waiting for. At what point are you going to just hook me, grip me, and make me sweat it out to the end? Like, just take me on this, like, roller coaster of escalating stakes, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd watched an interview with John Krasinski and Emily Blunt a few days before, and they'd said, well, it's not really a horror film. It's really just a film about this guy trying to, keep his family alive and what lengths he's going to go to for his family and all of that sort of thing. And that is what mainly, I guess, softened me on seeing it. I'm like, okay, well, it's probably not a scary movie. But ultimately, because of that, I was actually quite disappointed by this film. Like, I felt like there was too much kind of boring family stuff and not enough tension. Like, I didn't feel that engaged by what was going on. Like, I was interested to see how they were going to kind of get around some situations they found themselves in, but ultimately I was like, there was definitely spots even towards the end where I was like quite fidgety and bored because I just wasn't gripped by what was happening.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted because I think it's really well done. I also think that maybe with hype become unfair expectations because I think we've got to remember what this film is, and it is like an indie film. It's something and it's a directorial debut as well. So it's something where you've got a premise, you've got this guy exploring the premise, and it's not a big budget thing, and it's not going to change your life. But in terms of the genre and just how nicely it's crafted, it's a highlight. And that's a genre which I would say definitely has more misses than hits. I mean, you get those few films that sort of rise above that people talk about every year, and I'm talking about things like from Babadook to It Follows, The Witch, and now this. And I think it's sort of in that kind of area. But yeah, I thought some of the family stuff, although like beautifully shot, interestingly shot, I found a little...
It's a lot cheesier than I expected. Like,
it's not shot in a cheesy way.
Oh, no, not shot in a cheesy way, but just like even the I can't think of the dialogue. Like there is dialogue, but there's not dialogue. And there's just the one really fucking off-putting thing for me in this film was the whiteboard. And
it's so funny you said that because we were talking about this we were talking about the film last night with Paris and Zach.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm going to nitpick something, and this is such a nitpick, it's the whiteboard.
Oh, it made me so annoyed. Particularly the bit where, this is not a spoiler, but he has, what is their weakness, written really big. And, like, there's no space below it. Even if you find out what the fucking weakness is, there's no space to write it.
Let's talk about this whiteboard, because I wasn't going to go in there. It's really bad. Art design, like set design.
Yeah.
It's really bad set dressing because you don't believe for a second that character has ever touched that whiteboard. And it's day 400 and something, and he's written like 4 things really big for the audience. And it's even just the way it's positioned on camera.
Can hear good.
Yeah, read this now. The thing that cracked me up is it's like 4 sentences over 400 days, and it's at least 3 different colour markers. So he's gone like, what is there? And then he's changed the colour and written weakness. And then he's changed the colour again and drawn a box around it.
He's like contemplated all these really obvious things about the creature over the space of a year.
And when the camera first sort of lingers over it, I go, okay, look, it's economy of exposition.
Yeah, and then we won't see it again,
we don't
surely.
have to talk about... Yeah, and we see it a lot. It's in every shot. And it's, if you're getting bored in the scene, you can just read this whiteboard. But even then... you can feel that the editors, the studios have gone, this is an American film. People don't read fast. Like, we got to go take another...
Let's linger on the whiteboard again. We got to take another shot.
And then it goes in for a close-up. And it takes even longer. Just like, okay, has everybody got everything on this whiteboard? Because I know not everyone's going to be able to read. So, yeah, I agree. That's a bad whiteboard.
Yeah, it was a really bad whiteboard. And yeah, it's relatively early, and like for something to be that off-putting that early on, and for it to just to keep coming back, I was just like, ugh.
It's almost a character in the film.
It is, yeah, it is.
I think maybe that's a slight thing about it is that it's a film that has a strong premise and a strong cast and strong performances, and it's nicely put together, but I didn't feel like it has a massive amount of toys to play with. And I also didn't feel like anyone was particularly in danger because you have such a small toy box there. I'm not expecting anything to surprise me until the third act. I'm sort of prepared for things to go around its paces. And while I wouldn't use the word cheesy, I think I agree with what you're getting at is this idea of there are certain sequences where I feel like I'm being very manipulated to feel a way about like a sequence that uses music. And I feel like it does that. And I feel like the film is sitting back going, we've just made you feel misty. This thing about this relationship. And I've gone, no, you haven't, because you've thought that was enough, but I'm not there yet.
And even like there's a bit quiet towards the end that's meant to be a very big emotional moment, and I was just sitting there going, okay. And, you know, it's a huge moment in this film, and I kind of went, oh, yeah, okay, fair enough, but what's next? Kind of thing. The whole thing is like, what's next?
There is a kind of... Look, Krasinski is really good in this, and I imagine that, you know, he's someone that shows up in films a fair bit, but he doesn't lead them, and I think he'll get more exposure out of this and probably will do more. And I think as well, there's already talk about him having, you know, his choice for what he wants to do next. But there is a kind of built-in problem, I think, of having your star as your director, in the sense that I'm aware of the process more during it. So when that person is doing something big or heroic or something that's supposed to make me feel a certain way, I'm aware that they're giving themselves that opportunity.
Yep.
And that they're putting themselves in that situation, and that it's part of them trying to get a emotion from me. And I think, then it seems more like a sort of... It's more showboating. It's more of a Hugh Jackman with his top hat doing a performance than it is something that feels very real and lived in, and that I'm experiencing, where I feel like this... Because I'm aware that he has control of where things are going while I'm watching him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sort of going along with the fiction of, he's got to escape everything, but I'm also aware he's going to do everything to produce the best dramatic thing. So, yeah, so when that happens, I'm like, well, okay. I think as well, it's difficult to not compare this film to similar things. And the closest for me is Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Which has a similar premise, but instead of a monster, it's a man. And I think that it did a better job of creating the situation, putting everyone in the situation, and then just going balls out to the end. Like, just escalating. And that had me more engaged as a film.
Yeah, for sure. And I think half of my disappointment with this film, and it's not so much the film's fault, but when I do kind of make an effort to go and see these films that, you know, perhaps I'm a little bit nervous about, like, say, Don't Breathe or 10 Cloverfield Lane or Get Out or something like that, they've always been really fucking good. Like, I've walked out going, oh my God, I'm so glad that I saw that. I would have been really disappointed if I hadn't. This, I kind of walked out and went, well, I wasn't scared. I think I jumped once, maybe. And I wasn't otherwise engaged with the rest of the stuff that was going on in the film. So I felt more disappointed because I'd kind of, not hyped myself up for it, but had gone into it expecting one thing, and then it was just sort of fell a bit flat for me.
I wasn't disappointed, and it didn't fall flat for me. I think I'm probably sounding more negative than my reaction to it. I think that's, again, part of... You know, the podcast, we're gonna critique it, and hopefully in a relatively non-biased kind of sort of look at all the bits and pieces way. I think that it is a film that, for the most part, if you weren't gonna then go onto a podcast and sort of, you know, try to pull it apart about what works, what doesn't work, it would be a film that you would go and see and you would enjoy, and you would walk away with going, yep, I enjoyed that. I was entertained by that, and in which case, great. So, like, I gave it 3.5.
I gave it 3. Like, in terms of, you know, his first go at doing it, like, it's fine. Like, as a movie, it is fine. It just didn't, for something that was meant to be like a tense survival thrillery kind of thing, it just didn't grip me, really.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same. Like, that's what needed, that extra step, was for me to be so engrossed and on the edge of my seat. And I know that there are plenty of people that are and would be. And I don't know if that's just me in that different head. I find, like, it's difficult for me this far along to not watch and think about how things are made and why they're being made in that way, and what that goal is. There were moments, for sure. I think there's some really great sequences in there. There's some really effective shots. There were some things that I thought were creepy, and there were a couple of times where I was quite engaged, and I was like, well, what's going to happen here? But not enough. No, it didn't sustain, and I think a movie like that, with that kind of premise, needs to really have a clear point, which is probably the beginning of Act 2, where it hooks you and then it just runs with it for the rest. And there's also the problem, we can't spoil, but one of their biggest issues and things that they have to resolve in this film is something that so could have been easily prevented. Like, I know, okay, if they prevented it, then you don't have a film.
Yeah, but you're thinking, like, you're spending the whole movie thinking, why would you do this? You know it's going to be a fucking problem. Yeah. Why are you doing this?
And it's a good problem. It's look, to be fair, I know why you would do it in a script, because it's the perfect problem with that premise.
That can be relatable and
it's very clever. Like, it's a really, from a tension ratcheting and a problem like, how do we solve this problem? It's perfect. Like, it's so good. And in fact, it was the turning point in the movie where I thought for a moment, like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this because that's your issue. That's your complication. That's the thing that escalates this premise. But there was not enough justification of, well, why the fuck did you do this thing in the first place? Explain that to me and make me understand why. And it just didn't happen, which makes you think, ultimately, these are some pretty arrogant, selfish people that kind of deserve what they get.
I mean, unless there's sort of a point where they're feeling like, not complacent, but it still seems like a strange kind of,
it seems
kind of
like
road
playing
to go down.
the odds in a really fucked up way, because you are going to create a situation where you could lose everything for not enough gain. So we're going to be too cryptic now, so let's stop before we either just confuse people or they figure it out. But I will say, it's the highest grossing indie horror movie ever at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's been doing really, really well. So, I feel like it's the next big talked about film after Black Panther, surprisingly. And obviously it has no cultural diversity, unlike Black Panther, so I can only assume the appeal is a film where the white people shut the fuck up. Yeah. By people are championing it. Alright, let's talk about Isle of Dogs.
Yeah.
Which we just saw this morning. Wes Anderson's new stop-motion animation film about a Isle of Dogs in Japan.
It's in the title.
Where dogs get diseases and they get sent there, and a young Japanese boy who goes to find his dog who has been exiled to the island.
Yes. Well, yes, because all the dogs have caught a disease and they're like, we need to quarantine them, so they send all the dogs to this island.
To Garbage Island.
Yes.
Yeah, and we haven't actually talked about what we thought of this. We were very quiet in the car afterwards, so what did you think of it?
Yeah, I quite liked it. I mean, I liked it as much as I like any sort of Wes Anderson thing. Obviously, it's a story of pro-dog people and the pro-cat people who want to kill all the dogs.
Yeah.
So, it's aligning with my interest. But, I thought it was fun. I think with all of these films, I'm engaged enough in the story, but really I'm just looking at the technique of everything that's going on. Like, I'm watching the wind blowing the dog's fur and stuff like that. Like, I wasn't really... I'm not sitting there rooting for fucking Akira or Atari or whatever the fuck his name was to find his dog. It was just, I was like, oh, look at that, like, the light shining through there, or look at, how they're animating that dog or whatever. So it's like, it's a pretty fucking amazing feat. Like, when you think about, even in just 1 3-second shot, how much movement is happening all throughout there, it's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, I feel a similar thing, but probably not from so much from a technique thing, more of the idea that I think it is pretty incredible that you can take a bunch of inanimate toys and just through camera trickery, essentially, create a believable world where a story happens and you see these things interact. Like, I think that's kind of clever. I am going to critique this thing. I want to dig deep into it, but I am going to say that I did rate it already. I gave it 4 stars. So I do think it's a good film, and I really enjoyed it. And I also think, and I know this from Fantastic Mr. Fox, that it's something that I probably will enjoy more on future viewings because there'll just be things that I appreciate and I'll like respect the craft even more and more as I go, because I won't be just thinking about the story or anything like that. So I think it's really well done. I think just as we talked about with Disney and the fantasy problem of when you've seen all the bits before and you keep reshuffling them, is their impact lost? And this is a reshuffle of Wes Anderson bits. This style of dialogue, down to the actual voice actors that he used, the fact that Clooney and Bill Murray are so present in it.
Was it Clooney?
Was Clooney the main dog?
Bryan Cranston, wasn't it?
No, Bryan Cranston was one of the other ones.
No, they met. Okay, we're gonna have to Google this.
We're gonna
'Cause I'm pretty sure that it was Bryan Cranston.
I thought Bryan Cranston was the one.
Live Googling.
Yeah, let's get this in our heads because
Live
you do have a lot of.
Googling. Bryan Cranston was the main
chief.
dog. Was Clooney's Spot?
No, that was Liev Schreiber.
Oh, okay.
Harvey Keitel. I thought that was Harvey Keitel. Okay, so George Clooney isn't in it.
No, I didn't think so.
So I thought this guy must be Bob Balaban King. I don't know who that is. Anyway, didn't figure that out. But yeah, it still feels like, for me, delivery-wise, it feels that sort of same way. Like, can you imagine George Clooney in that role? I can't imagine it being that different. I think there's a point where, like, I love how this film looks. There's so many just perfect shots, like just so many great shots. And the thing is that, and inventive, fun shots as well. And
like the way they use traditional animation as a replacement for like video and stuff. So there's a lot of like meshing of styles and stuff.
That's my one issue in the film, to be honest. And that's because there was a point where, so you realise everything that's seen through a camera is done in 2D animation. And it's not a particularly lively animation either. It's got a nice sort of render, but it looks like almost a flash animation kind of thing. It's pretty basic. And that's an interesting device and a bit of sort of visual charm at the beginning. But there's a point where I feel the film gets quite reliant on that. It gets used to the point where I began to wonder if it was an artistic choice or if it was a
time money.
choice. Yeah, it really did, because there were some things. There's even like a battle in the third act, which is pretty much just seen through cameras. And there are times as well where, in fact, a lot of the time it's used to show scope and scale, and you see that, oh, here are all these things happening in buildings and all these people and everything, and then it cuts to the sort of live action, which is the stop motion version of that, the puppet version, and it's actually a lot smaller. And it started to get used to a point where I was like, did they run out of time or money on some of this stuff? And I shouldn't be thinking that while watching the film, you know? And I didn't think it initially. Like, I was watching it and going, oh, that's kind of an interesting choice. And then later on I was like, oh, was this a necessity choice as opposed to a artistic choice? Because I felt that it interrupted things a bit much towards the end. And I felt there were times as well where, the animation was doing the 2D animation was doing the work, and then you would cut to a set that we'd already seen a couple of times before, because there's times where people are watching things on TV and you go to like a little sushi shop or something, and I remember like actively thinking the first time I saw these, it's amazing that they've built these little sets for these cutaway shots. And then later on, I'm like, oh no, you're getting your money out of this set because I've just seen it a third time. But yeah, it's interesting because visually it's impressive and sort of beautiful without being ambitious. Like, I think it's actually really quite low key. So it's interesting to me how he gets that sort of visual richness just out of colour and composition, essentially, and sort of ideas. Whereas if you compare it to a film, and I think it's a lesser film, but like Kubo and how many strings were there? 2 or 3?
2 strings.
2 strings? With that, you know, like, and if you've seen the behind the scenes puppetry stuff, like that giant skeleton thing that he's fighting, which is this massive puppet, and just all the like invention and sort of pushing the medium and spectacle, and you don't see that in Isle of Dogs at all. It's just about colour and composition, really. But at the same time, I way prefer to watch this film. So it's kind of par for the course. Like,
yeah, it's so Wes Anderson-y.
Have more impact on me if he hadn't already done something like Fantastic Mr. Fox, you know, and I was seeing him do the stop motion for the first time. But I recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that sort of tugged at me a little bit is the female dogs. Why do they need to be sexy female dogs?
Because Scarlett Johansson was a sexy dog.
And both dogs, most of their plot revolved around who was fucking them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little bit... okay. you know, but yeah.
There's something though about I was thinking about that too.
Like, I wasn't, like, it's not something that I'm super hung up on, and I'm like, I hate this movie because they're talking about fucking these dogs, that all these female dogs, they're clean and pretty when all the other dogs are dirty and boys. But it just was something that stood out to me.
It's, again, par for the course, though, like with Wes Anderson. Like, you look at the way that Scarlett Johansson dog is framed, those front-on shots of her on the higher level with the railing, with the hair sort of tussling out to the side. It's all very much his viewpoint and his version of her. And it wasn't a far leap for me of, like, the framing and the kind of shots of the girl in Moonrise Kingdom and the way that he's idolizing her and sort of looking across at her behind the railing and the way she's framed and everything. And yeah, very much from a male point of view. But yeah, I thought that was odd that you've got like 5 or so lead dogs and they're all played by older white men. You don't have a female dog that's part of the group. You don't have...
And they make a point of saying, we're alpha dogs at one point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. Let's just move on from that, too.
And you have Courtney B. Vance as a dog and with Tilda Swinton as a dog. But they're sort of side characters that sort of turn up as a bit of a refreshment later on. But, yeah. I don't know, but...
Like, it's not a killer for the film, but it is sort of worth mentioning.
It's one of those things where I don't want to make, like, excuses or whatever, because it is what it is, and I think he's just that dude, isn't he? I mean, you look at a picture of Wes Anderson, you're not expecting that dude to do very diverse films. Like, he's an auteur in a very small box, really, and it is a very small box because the threads between all his films are so clear. And I think that there'll be a lot of people going, well, that's not acceptable, but the market decides that. And I think he's got a small box and a small audience, and like, not many people really will see this at the cinema. So if you're like going, well, he lacks the appeal because it's not diverse, then you're right, and that's why he's
not why you're going to go and see a Wes Anderson film.
And that's why he's not going to do Black Panther numbers on this thing.
Yeah.
He's and that's why we didn't get to see it in the premium cinema, even though it just opened on Thursday, and why there were like about 6 people in the audience. So that's all part of it. But I'm glad it got made.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a feat, and there's a lot of imagery in there that will stick with me. Even more than, like, Budapest. Is it Budapest Hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, and the other ones that, like, I enjoyed it. It's good. It's not obviously perfect, but you're going to see a Wes Anderson film for the Wes Anderson-iness, and it has that in spades.
And when you... Yeah, I've got like a board on Pinterest of shots that I like in movies, and I'm always looking and thinking, are there shots in this film that I think are memorable that would stand alone as a still image? And there's a ton of them in that film.
I think my favourite is when Chief, like, they're in the little cave or whatever, and he comes out and he's standing and, like, looking into the distance, and the moonlight or whatever is shining through his fur, and he's, like, outlined in light, and it's so beautiful.
I'll tell you my favourite shot. I don't think this is a spoiler, but... It's just a shot which has a camera movement which I think is so fucking great and thoughtful, and you just do not see anything like this. It's when it's Chief's the main one.
Yeah.
When he's telling his backstory and all the dogs are listening, and the camera pans from his face, it goes backwards past the dogs that are listening, and it goes to Atari in the extreme foreground, who is sitting turned at 90 degrees angles to them, and you just see his feet, essentially. And his foot is all bloodied and messed up from his accident, and he puts his sock on. So it's this reminder, while you're still hearing the story, that Atari is there, but he's not fully engaged. And it's also just little details about him which show what he's been through and what this journey is kind of physically costing him. And then he pulls out a photo of his lost dog, which, again, you're not seeing his face, you're just seeing it in the foreground, which is a reminder of his focus and what he's doing. And then the camera stops its journey and then starts moving back in the opposite direction to go back to where it was. I just think that's such an amazing shot, because people are so concerned always with getting from A to B. What's the central thing? What are we focused on here? And it was just such a nice mood shot and still telling the story, but keeping your idea of where everyone was situated and what their current drive was. I thought it was really, really cool. All right. All that's left now is the what to watch challenge. It was biopic times.
Yes.
April, biopic month.
Yes. So this week is Politician.
And you watched Darkest Hour finally.
Yes. I got around to it finally.
And I don't think we've ever talked about this on the show, have we?
No, I don't think so. Winston Churchill's rise to becoming the Prime Minister of Great Britain and all the issues that World War II and Dunkirk posed for him. Yeah, look, I found it a little bit dry, I've got to be honest. It was over 2 hours and it felt like quite a bit longer than that. I think Gary Oldman does it. He does a good job, and like the makeup people doing his prosthetic are unbelievable. Like you wouldn't even think that this thing is fake. Like he just looks like a person. But the thing that kind of put me off really early in the film is that they don't show him for quite a while. They're talking about him and kind of, cutting around and stuff like that. And when they fight, they almost treat it as this weird, like, oh, this is Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill, and making this weird sort of reverence about it. And, I get that it's a movie about him, but it just sort of rankled me a little bit to start off with.
I think that's another... I'm not opposed to that as a way of, developing character, and I think it's not a bad thing to see through the eyes of other people first and then get that reveal. But I think you're hitting on that whole central thing about it, which is it's kind of a stunt film in that respect. That's all this thing is about, is they've sat down at some point and gone, Gary Oldman could do this, let's do a makeup test, is this going to work? Yes, this is going to work. It's a character piece, and that's the whole selling point. You can see that's what excited everyone about making it.
Yeah.
We can get Gary Oldman in as a convincing Churchill, and he's going to get to just go in there and chew up that scenery, and hopefully win an Oscar, and he did.
Yeah.
But, I agree. As a film, beyond that novelty, I don't know if... there's much else to make it a classic.
Yeah, and it's, the script is fine, but, Churchill was just a walking speech machine, so all you kind of doing is linking up points in between. He's making these big speeches, we'll fight them on the beaches and all of that sort of shit. As far as Dunkirk movies go, the background politician stuff is probably the least interesting part of that story. So that was a little bit of a drag, but I did like Mendo's in this thing playing George VI, and I think that as far as casting goes, he's probably the closest sort of facially that I've seen cast as Bertie in recent times. And he was he's just, he's standing in a room in a uniform saying things with a stutter sometimes. So it wasn't, he was not stretched whatsoever. He did not have to wear a prosthesis. He just combed his hair. I don't know. I don't think I've even logged this thing yet, but I would not be in a hurry to watch it again, and I think it's pretty obvious why it, as a film, did not win the Oscar, because it's just not, it's fine, but it's nothing special.
That's kind of the curse of biopics, though, isn't it? I think that's mostly what happens, is it becomes more that sort of stunt casting, let's see this person inhabit the role, but then... you're almost damned if you do and damned if you don't in terms of liberties with the storytelling. So, those films that do take, that's in a way why I, Tonya's pretty great, is that it's able to take liberties in speculative, but what if this happened, or what if what happened that he said happened, as opposed to what she said happened, and, you get to explore things in a different way, whereas... When you're talking about war times and stuff like that... It's
also heavily documented that you can't...
You're just not going to get that. I would like to see Christopher Nolan cut together the 3 Dunkirk films of last year and do a big Dunkirk supercut
Yeah, well, their finest technically takes place afterwards. They
He
make
likes mixing up the timelines.
Well, yeah,
That's why Christopher
yeah.
Nolan's got to do it.
Yeah, you're
Put
right.
that ticking clock in. And,
Perfect. Yeah,
so
fantastic.
I watched Frost Nixon
Okay.
with what's his face? Skeletor playing Nixon.
Okay.
Frank Langella.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Sheen. Is that right? Yeah.
I have no idea. I haven't seen this
Frost. Michael Sheen's the one that was the bartender in
one. Oh, okay.
Passengers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I quite enjoyed it.
Okay.
So, obviously a period of history that I was not around for. But the most interesting thing about it, and they're great performances and it's an interesting story, but, now we're talking about Trump and all this fucked up stuff with the media and his treatment of the media, and it's interesting to see all that happening beforehand with Nixon. Like, it's so similar. Like, Nixon sort of demonizing the media and banning certain media outlets from certain things, and basically ends up letting David Frost be the one who interviews him after the scandal, because it's seen that it's going to be a lightweight thing, that he's this sort of entertainer that, is going to give him a lightweight interview and not put the pressure on him, and then he does. That was probably the most interesting thing to me, because you're sort of seeing a lot of stuff now and people are going, well, how can this happen? And then you go, well, maybe it's always happened. There's always been these things. And what made me interested as well is, and you realise through watching the Trump stuff over the last year and a half like we have, that it's kind of a roller coaster ride. There are a lot of little scandals and things that come up, and a lot of things that we're outraged by, and I can think of plenty of weeks in the past where everyone's been, oh my god, I can't believe he said this, or we're worried we're going to go to war about this, but then those things sort of disappear. And I think it's because history is that summation of everything. You sort of end up hearing, you don't get all the false alarms and everything. You get this is the best summation of what happened, and this is what ultimately went down. Whereas there's always going to be lots of crazy moments in between. And
yeah, that's the thing. Like, people look at the Holocaust and go, how could anyone let that happen? It's like, well, it's not just like Hitler rocked up one day and go, Holocaust, baby. Like,
So it's interesting. He might in Taika Waititi's film.
That's
might be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, played by Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, turn up in like a wife beater, and yeah.
But so I thought it was really interesting from both the sort of, well, like structurally and performance wise, obviously, but then also it was an introduction to a bit of history that I didn't know a massive amount about, and also just that thing of when somebody does do something that's really fucked up and betrays a lot of people, or makes a mistake, or maybe they are just a fucked up, like, I certainly don't believe in good and evil and things like that, but like, what happens after it? Like, it does humanize Nixon, and there is a point where it's like, well, yeah, look, I did this stuff and I shouldn't have, but what do you want? Should I, do I commit suicide?
Seppuku in front of everybody.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
What do you want from me? Basically. Like, what else can I say? What will change things? And I think that's interesting as well. So I enjoyed it, except for, and I think I complained about this on an earlier one, because I did watch it a while ago, except for the fact that David Frost is working on Australian TV at the beginning, and there's a lot of bad Australian use blokes talk from the crew.
Yeah, right.
Fuck you, Hollywood.
Yeah, if I hadn't done Darkest Hour, I was going to watch... originally I was going to watch Malcolm X, but then I realised that Malcolm X is not actually a politician. He was just a political figure. And then I was going to watch JFK, which was a movie that... sometimes you hook onto things when you're younger. When I was about 13, I was fucking obsessed with that Kevin Costner JFK movie. I don't know why. You were obsessed with Kevin Costner.
No.
Well, I did, but it had nothing to do with Kevin Costner. Like, we had to do, like, assignments for class, and I did my assignment on JFK, and my teacher's just like, what the fuck is this?
I don't know, because every time you watch something and I think, well, that's an odd choice, then it's always because of some dude that's in it that's in something else that you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, usually. Like, if there's an option of, like, multiple things that I could watch and I don't know how to choose between them, it's like, okay, that's the one with the dude in it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm watching some movie later on, and I think you've got it on your list too, just because, like, fucking Chris Evans is in it and I haven't seen it. Like, Solaris or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, well, fuck, that'll do.
That's Danny Boyle as well. That's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, fuck me. What else do you want? All right. Well, next week it's an artist.
Oh yes, I can't remember the name of the movie that I'm doing, but it's something that's it's got Dan Stevens and Dominic Cooper in it.
I'm doing Morty.
Oh yeah, cool.
With Ethan Hawke
Fish
and
lady.
Fish fucker. So I'm looking forward to that. I've already seen it. Spoilers. Okay. Well, look, I want to finish there because then I don't have to change the track.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Please go to fruitlesspursuits.com to find out everything else we're doing, including the Dungeons and Drongos podcast, second part of Sports Barrel, which Cinta as a guest tomorrow, which is a lot of fun, and it's better than the first part of Sports Barrel. Some really good gaming in there, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if that first hour was fun without just learning how to play the fucking game.
People seem to enjoy it, which is good because the next one's a lot better. Because there's a lot more variety in that next one.
No one's commented on the fucking post about it.
Yeah, they have.
Have they?
Yeah.
I thought, I was looking only in the discussion group. The only person that's commented on that is like Paris.
No, there's more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
But people don't look. People just enjoy. They don't want to do anything. Lazy fuckers. But if you do want to do anything, rate, review, tell your friends, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Bye.
Tinkety tonk.